record. Hold on. Okay. In addition to that, you will see at the bottom it says reactions. Depending on your version of Zoom, you will have a variety of fun little icons that you can click on throughout tonight's presentation. You can laugh at David's jokes. I'm pretty sure he has some.
I forgot to bring us. I don't have one.
You don't have any jokes, David?
I'll figure something out.
I'll try to have a joke at some point.
I'm funny looking. Can we start with that?
I'm taking it. I'll take it. I'll take any and all opportunities to laugh or giggle. So please utilize those. If you would like, you can also raise your hand at this feature. Now, if you have an updated version, it used to be under the participants button. You could raise your hand in there. Now, if you ended up having a question, you can actually raise your hand through the reactions icons. Looking good, everybody. So glad you guys are here. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, he said he was going to work on the chat there. What else do we want to talk about? You know, why don't we do this? Tonight is all about engagement. You are here to learn how to engage here, virtually, on the virtual platform, whether that is on Zoom, if that is on a Teams meeting, or if that is potentially even on maybe a Facebook Live or something like that, or you're interacting some other way virtually, how to engage. So, my first pop quiz question for you, which you guys I know are super, super excited about. I want you to tell me, what is your definition of engagement? And I would love for y'all to type that in the chat. What is your definition of engagement? And in this particular term, we are not talking about weddings. Although it is about to be Valentine's Day, and I am probably not the only one that is a little on edge about that. You know, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't have, you know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. Nobody let him see this. Well, if you just joined us, thank you so much. Go ahead and type in the chat what you guys think engagement means, specifically in this virtual setting. All right, so I'm going to scroll up here and see. Victoria says connecting. Okay. We've got, oh man, I'm going to butcher your name, but I'm going to try. Hisani? Keeping the audience interested. Sheila says connecting as well. Connecting seems to be our number one answer so far. Maddie says actively listening and participating. Suzanne says connection. Connection is key. Marcia, intentional connection. Ooh. Ooh. She's adding a word. And then Kari says interested and participating. Kari, I'm always trying to be interested in participating in whatever you're doing. I just hope you know that in advance. Oh, that's good. That's good. We got a two-way conversation that connects nicely. So Bill says fully in tune with the other party. I will be impressed if you are always fully in tune with the other party. That is, I can't even do that with the dog. Just saying. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. If you guys just joined us, we were putting in the chat what our definition of engagement is. Captivating and maintaining it. Ooh, good one, Eugene. Like
a lot of great responses. We'll get to them in just a little bit.
Yes, those are fantastic. All right. We already talked about where our reactions in our chat is. So, of course, if you have things that you need, you can utilize the chat. My name is, I shouldn't even introduce myself, did I? I'm Amanda Mae Gray. I will be your host this evening. If we haven't met, I am so sorry. I would love to meet you at some point, and I feel like maybe we're doing that right now. Our speaker this evening will be David Doerrier. He is a wonderful guy with that big old beard over there. I think he was doing something for Christmas. I don't know. Not trying to insinuate anything, but maybe, just maybe. And let's see what else we got on the agenda. I think we're about ready. How many participants do we got right now? 28. Awesome.
I see Deanna has her hand up. Deanna,
I didn't even see that. It's like covered up in the little hearts that you have there. Jen, if you want to go ahead and come off mute and ask your question, feel free. Don't forget to unmute yourself. That is the key. Mute and unmute.
Okay.
Do you have a question, Deanna?
right. Thank you. Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, we are just about ready to get this show on the road. Very excited for this. Welcome, everybody. If you are just joining us, thank you for showing up. Please remember to stay on mute unless you are called upon and you have a question. Feel free to ask any questions during this period. I will also be monitoring the chat to help David out as he is presenting for all of you. But I think it is time to get our party going because I like parties. I don't know about you guys, but have you guys heard of Zoom fatigue? Anybody? Yes, no? This is a great opportunity to use your reaction button.
Yes.
Nice. We got that. Good job. Yes. Awesome. I know, me too. Those are some long, boring meetings, aren't they? Maybe some networking events. They're just unnecessary. You know, when the presenter just loves to talk about themselves all the time, like me. No, just kidding. Well, you're in luck today because our speaker loves to hear himself talk and your host. Oh my goodness, how great. But he does have something that you guys want to hear. So we do want to pay attention. Like I mentioned, you probably want a pen and paper or a chat thing opened up on your box so that you can save your notes. Now, David's going to be sharing some foundational engagement principles that can be easily applied to your current speaking style and audience. He'll be demonstrating these principles for the virtual audience. Of course, though, you can use them outside of the virtual setting when you do get back to face, even if it's just with your delivery driver. You could try that. I don't know if it'll work, but you could definitely try talking to the Amazon person, although they're very fast. So if it works, I feel like David wins in this. You're going to be able to immediately apply these same engagement principles anywhere you go because you're probably already using some of them and have experienced their success now in the virtual world. But who's David? And why should we listen to David? Well, he has 29 years in training and development. He's got 12 years as an on-air rock and roll DJ. I think that's super cool. He has been a stage actor and a voiceover artist. I like how you didn't put a years in there, David. He's got 28 years in the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, David, and your overabundance of service, actually. Oh, I called it. And over 30 years as a professional Santa Claus. I mean, hello. It's amazing. He's combined all these skills he's learned from his varied backgrounds to help trainers and presenters at all speaking levels improve their facilitation and audience engagement skills. Increased audience engagement equals increased sticky factor. Fellow Toastmasters and lovely guests, please help me welcome the Mr. Sticky Guy himself, David Doerrier.
Well, thank you, Amanda, for that great introduction and also for that great way of welcoming everyone to this webinar. I was listening to you with all those years of different things that I was involved with. If you had your calculator out, it's probably make me, if all of these things were chronological, 28 years, Air Force, 12 years, DJ, and so on, and make me probably the same age as the real Santa Claus. But I was doing most of these things concurrent with each other. At the same time, I was in the Air Force. I was starting my radio career, left the radio, left my full-time job with the Air Force, went into the reserves, and so I can pursue the fame and fortune. So was doing all these things. And as Amanda said, being able to combine all of these things into what I do today to help people to understand how to engage their audience. The best way to observe today's webinar is to have me in the speaker view, to have me large on the screen, because there's going to be times where I will be projecting my slides. So the larger that you have me on your screen, the better you'll be able to read the slides. You'll also notice that we are recording today's session. This will be available at some point down the road, and Roxanne will talk about where it will be available at the end of today's session. Along with, we're going to be doing a number of things today, and one of the things that I want to be able to do is to demonstrate different engagement techniques. So first, what I'd like to do is to set the stage. What are we doing today? Why are we doing? How are we going to do it? This is a 55-minute interactive session. I've mentioned just a moment ago that the best way to observe is to make sure that I'm in speaker view. Up in the right-hand corner of Zoom, you will see an option to put it into speaker view. Also, keep your microphone off unless you are actively involved. And at times, you may see things wave around on the screen. Don't get scared. That's just my hands. I'm originally from New York. And as fellow New Yorkers know, we just cannot speak without using our hands. So don't be afraid of that. There's going to be times that I'll ask for your participation. I will ask for you to raise your hand. Go ahead and raise your hand now, down at the bottom. Amanda was talking earlier about raising hands. I see Amanda, Ira, Monica, thank you, Rosa, Suzanne, thank you very much for raising your hand. This will be one way that we will be able to know if you would like to participate, and Amanda will help me out and call on you. We'll also be asking you to enter some things into the chat as well. We'll be using the chat, and we may be using a poll too. So we're talking about engagement, demonstrating engagement. Right now, I'd like to talk about another way of engaging your audience, and that is through images. And I'd like to give a shout out to this website here, Pexels. All of the images that you see here today have been downloaded for free, legally, from Pexels. Your learners or your participants in your event, everybody learns differently. Some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic, need to get their hands on it, and some people are visual. Having some sort of a visual reinforcement to what you're saying, having pictures more so than text on the screen, for example, is a great way of cementing what you're saying and also engaging your audience if those questions are relevant. So what are we going to be doing today? What's our objectives? Our objectives are to help you to increase your engagement. Take the skills that you currently have right now and provide some additional tips and principles and some magic dust and some tricks that you can use, that you can apply tomorrow or tonight, where you can start creating engagement. Now, who can benefit from this? Everybody that's on this call right now. If you are a teacher, a leader, a manager, a trainer, Toastmaster, a mom that's speaking at the PTA, if you are a salesperson, you're part of negotiations, maybe you are planning large events or small events, all these types, all the principles, all of the things that I'm going to be talking about today can be used to help engage your audience. And we're going to talk about what engagement is and define what engagement is in just a moment. As I said, taking your skill sets, taking the speaking talents that you have right now and just kind of fine tuning those skills. My job today is to, if you remember those old analog radios, and if the dial was just a little off from that radio station, how it just sounded horrible. Well, my job today is to help you get that dial really tuned in and help you with your engagement. So let's get to know one another. I was on a sales call. I was on a call earlier today, and the gentleman was speaking that the way to get to know people is you need to know and like and trust them to buy a product from them or to listen to their sales presentation. You need to know your speaker. You need to know your audience. You need to like the presenter and also be able to trust them. So let's get to know a little bit about you. What kind of speaking are you doing now? Up on the screen, you're going to see a poll has popped up. I'd like to know what kind of speaking you're doing now. This list may not encompass every type of speaking, but the first one that pops up that catches your eye. Are you a Toastmaster? Are you involved in training? Facilitating meetings? And now, is it up on the screen? Yep, got it up on the screen. There you go. Just not seeing the results coming in yet. None. Either it's not getting the results at this point, but this is another one of those things, and we get to demonstrate things on the fly. If things just don't seem to work properly, then you don't sit and just harp and, oh man, it's not working. Hello, it's people. Are you listening? Hello. Let me get me back on the screen so you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm not getting the results on my end. It's clearly showing up on your end. You have all voted, I guess.
Did you guys
Amanda?
see it? I have. It says launched on my end, but I don't see any results pulling
Kimball
in just
says he
yet.
sees it.
Okay,
Marcia
good.
says they
Okay,
see
good.
it.
You
There we
guys got to
go.
click on
Okay.
an answer.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click end poll and see if just somehow magically everything is just going to show up. Share the results, and everybody sees zeros, correct? You see the results?
No, we see numbers.
You see numbers? Well, you're seeing a lot more than I am because all I'm seeing is zeros. So, all right. Who was that spoke there just a moment ago? Now, this is again where we're going to talk about credibility in just a minute, and how you engage your audience is how you react to things just going crazy. So somebody tell me the numbers that you see on there. How many Toastmasters do we have today?
37%.
37%. And Amanda and Roxanne, you cannot see the results. Is that correct? All right. Look at that.
No, but
All
I
right.
think Bill's on it.
What's the highest number we have? This is crazy.
Toastmasters is the highest at 37%.
Okay. And what's the second highest?
Training at 22%.
Good. Very good. All right. And what about a third?
Sales 19%.
Oh, I see folks are putting it into the chat as well. Thank you. Sales 19%. Thank you for that, Sheila. Facilitating meetings 11%, networking 4%, no keynotes. All right, we're going to stop sharing. Get rid of that. So, what was what did happen there was that you had an opportunity to use the poll to indicate what type of speaking that you did. I couldn't see it on my end, so we went by the seat of our pants, and we had someone to help out, Martha, to help out with the results in creating that engagement, that little bit of crisis. Maybe that brought people a little bit closer to the camera as well. So it's all part of the more engagement that you have, as Amanda said just a few moments ago, the more engagement, the more that your message is going to stick. And the only way it's going to stick is that you need to come across to your audience credibly, that you are an expert in the topic, that you are familiar with how to use Zoom. You are comfortable when a crisis happens. You use the people that you have, you've done some pre-planning as well. So those are all ways of creating that credibility to your audience, and another way of creating that engagement. So now I was able to learn a little bit about you. So what gives me the credibility to speak to you? So here's a little bit about my history. I was, yes, retired from the Air Force, 10 years active duty, 18 in the reserves. And it was through the reserves that I started my training career at Dobbins Air Force Base in 1995, and just found out that I just loved it. I really took to it. A little bit more about me and a little bit more about my background, all of this impressive stuff. You can see that the picture there is a little bit old. It does not have the hair on my chinny chin chin. However, that is my lovely wife sitting next to me there. But I do have to tell you that my career has taken me down a path that's got me up in front of people on a regular basis. I was in radio broadcasting for 12 years. After my radio broadcasting career, I ended up in training. I was also a theater actor in community theater for a number of years. However, I had a problem. I don't like being up in front of people. I'm very shy. I get very nervous. I get very sweaty. But I learned that the most comfortable place I feel is in front of people. So I had to, and because I'm also a perfectionist, I had to find a way that I can be an effective trainer. I couldn't just stand in front of them and just yap away. I had to be effective in front of the group. So what I came up with is what I'm going to be sharing with you today, these different skill sets. So let's talk about, earlier you answered the question, define engagement. Amanda, I need your help here. Can we go through some of those responses of what people talked about as far as their definition of engagement?
We can indeed. The number one answer was connecting, or some form of that word.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping the audience interested, actively listening and participating, interested and participating. So that's our number two answer. Intentional connection.
Intentional.
Yes, a two-way conversation that connects,
Mhm,
fully in tune with the other party,
mhm.
being connected and developing a meaningful connection. It's all about the connection, David.
It's all
That's what
about
I'm
the
seeing the
connection.
most of. Yeah. The
Great.
ability to hold someone's interest to the point the other person is willing to respond.
Mm.
Oh, Martha.
Let's stick with that one for a minute. Could you
Martha.
repeat that one? And who's that from?
That is from the lovely Martha Dodd, who gave us help on the polling. She said the ability to hold someone's interest to the
Mhm.
point the other person is willing to respond.
Okay, we're going to address that in just a moment. All of these responses are all great examples of engaging your audience, of connecting to your audience. And now that we are in the virtual world, it's even that much more important for us to connect. And all we have is just this little camera right here to be able to connect to them. With the most common responses that I get are using the chat is one way that you can connect with your audience and communicate with your audience. Using the poll, demonstrated that kind of clumsily just a few minutes ago. Breakout rooms, using the whiteboard. A whiteboard is a really nice tool to use because there you can, if you have a group of people, you can take notes on the whiteboard. People can write their own notes on the whiteboard. Everybody contribute to these notes, and you can save it as well. So that's a nice thing to have with the whiteboard. And then there's the breakout rooms. Now, in each of these cases, these are all great tools to use, and there's a bunch of other tools outside of Zoom, third-party applications that you can use to bring in. Demonstrating the whiteboard. Is that you, Amanda, that's demonstrating the whiteboard? Very good. I see. That's Deanna. That's Deanna that's doing that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Deanna. She was a great demonstration on how to use the whiteboard. Thank you. And the whiteboard, great demonstration for that. Thank you very much. Audience participation, the breakout rooms, again, great examples of those. However, at the core of any of these tools or external tools that are brought in, there needs to be a reason why you're using it. What's the purpose? What's the objective? What are you trying to get from your audience? What information are you trying to get from your audience? And how will that information that you get from your audience help you in reaching the objectives of your workshop or of your training or of your sales presentation? So any one of these need to have some sort of an objective. What I also want to share with you are some additional type of engagement principles. And this is where you get into your audience's head. And I want to go back to what Martha, was it Martha? I apologize. Was it Martha? And read again what Martha said.
Let me get back up there. Miss Martha Dodd said, the ability to hold someone's interest to the point the other person is willing to respond.
The ability to hold their interest. So all of the things that we've just mentioned are ways that you can hold their interest by having the participants using the chat, using the polls, question and answer, raising their hands. But there's one more additional piece to add to it, and this is where you get into your audience's head, where the stories are relevant, the content is relevant to the point where now your audience is able to feel the information. You know, when you go to McDonald's and you get into the drive-through lane and you see that giant menu. Well, that's kind of what we're talking about here, that visualization. By a show of hands, how many people saw a McDonald's menu? Did you see it in your head? Several hands are coming up. So that's just one example of how you can get into their head, make it relevant, make the content relevant to your audience. So that's what we're going to look at here. In the chat, up on your screen, you're going to, based on what we've talked about so far about engagement, based on what we've demonstrated so far and what you know about engagement, which one of these 5 would you say is not a way to engage your audience effectively? Using training exercises, is that a good way or a bad way to engage your audience? One of these 5 is not correct. One of these 5 is not like the others. And Amanda, what's the overwhelming response to our
It
question?
is 3. Number 3, the overloaded slides with text.
Have
I
you,
only see that answer, actually. We got some smart people.
come
in
on, somebody give us a number 4. Come on, throw a 4 in there.
this.
I know you can do it.
You got it.
There we go. We got us a 4. Thank you. So the point here is that, well, have you been to a training or a workshop recently that the presenter, all they did was just read the slide? I feel that PowerPoint has positive and not so positive values to it. I like to use PowerPoint to reinforce what I'm saying, trying to use more images than I use text on the screen, because it's me painting that picture. It's you painting that picture with words, and the image is reinforcing. Thank you for that. Thank you. Number 10, Deanna brings up the number 10. So far we've looked at a couple of things. Amanda did a great job of demonstrating engage in a very engaging opening. We've also I set the stage. What are we doing? How are we doing it? Why are we doing it? How are we going to get to our destination? How are we going to ask questions, and so on? Talked about credibility, and we also defined engagement. So here is another example of how to engage your audience. Do short reviews. Find times that are appropriate for the type of speaking that you're doing to have a short review. In this case, I verbalize the entire review. But later I'm going to kind of mix it up, and we're going to have a different type of review a little bit later. So another way to engage your audience is to keep them with you. I look at speaking as we're all going to get on this train together. We're all in this train car. And my job as the facilitator is to make sure that we all stay on this train car all the way to the end. What would be an example of people falling off the train car? What would be an example of people not making it to the end? Amanda, what would you say, putting you on the spot here? Because
I know. I'm like,
putting you on the spot. Our job as facilitators is to keep everybody with us.
Yep.
But if people start falling off, what is that an indication of? That we start losing people?
You're either talking too fast, maybe you're talking too slow, maybe you're talking irrelevantly or nonsensically.
Okay. I
Anything
see.
like that. We got some
Good.
answers in the chat too.
Yep. I see. Yeah. People going to sleep, do short reviews. Someone reinforced that. Logging off of the meeting. That's certainly one way to lose them. I guess these are all great responses. I guess clarify that, whereas the speaker is speaking at a level that maybe people aren't understanding the content. Maybe the speaker has started talking about more complex principles before people are ready to hear those principles. So those could be some examples. Thank you. Very monotone, Rosa says. Phone is definitely distracting. Too many filler words. After every other word. That can be a distraction, especially we Toastmasters. That's what we're trained to do. Count the ums and ahs. Exactly. So let's now take it a little deeper. We've had a little review of what we've covered up to this point. Let's take it to the next level. Now, I put this up here not to say, wow, look at me. I'm a certified virtual presenter and a certified virtual facilitator. That's not the point. The point here is that for me to get these certifications, I had to go through a test. They tested me on these 6 competencies, and we're going to briefly look at one of these competencies. And the one competency that we're going to look at is presence. And these are the areas that I was judged on. And every facilitator that goes through this certification process is tested the same way. Every virtual presenter is tested the same way. Do we have any virtual presenters or with e-speakers on? Just raise your hand, or any virtual facilitators who have gone through this process. Okay. So this is presence, and this is what, and I bring this up because these are important items that project credibility to your audience, project the engagement with your audience. Can you think for a moment some distractions that you've seen, that you've observed from speakers or on a networking event? Anything that's coming through that lens, think for a moment what those are. And some other examples of distractions are the background. For me, those virtual backgrounds without a green screen that get all sloppy, that to me is a distraction. And then you can see a variety of other distractions that a speaker could have. And I'll just briefly go through these. If I had a nickel for every time I had to talk to someone about the lighting in their room, that there's a huge giant light that you would normally find on the top of a giant cruise ship that's sitting behind you, and it's making it impossible for me to see who you are. I can't even tell if you're male or female. That light is just way too bright. So lighting behind you, lighting over your head, too much light in front, all of those things can become distractions and can also project credibility. When we all first were sequestered back in March of last year, and Zoom now became huge, there was a lot more give and take with presenters. We'll put up with the cat. We'll put up with the light. We'll put up with the dirty lens. But as we got deeper and deeper into this thing, people are expecting a lot more professionalism. All of that projects credibility. The camera. I saw someone, David Tanner, said dirty lens on the camera. What gets me is where the camera is positioned. You know, this is all you see, the entire presentation is this guy right here. You can count the nose up, the hair is up my nose, you know, or maybe it's some other, you know, it's, or eye contact. I'm looking over here the entire time and I'm not looking at you. We could spend a whole hour on eye contact. Number one note on engaging your audience, look at them through the lens. Yes, there are times you have to look away. So these are some examples of the camera. It doesn't have to be a great camera, just a camera that's eye level, a camera that's clear, a camera that makes you, that at least we can see you. That's what we're looking for. You don't have to go out and get $1 million camera or anything. Posture. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how many people I've seen recently that are doing this, you know, just leaning on the desk. They're a sales guy. They're trying to impress you about their product. Here, buy my product. Please buy my product. Posture. The question comes up, should you sit or stand? Whatever is most comfortable for you. If you can stand, stand. It gives you a lot more energy. I see Amanda is standing. Amanda, what do you like about standing?
Ooh, I just think I have better posture standing.
Mhm.
I'm not swiveling around in a chair or fidgeting that way. I mean, I'm fidgeting a little standing, but I think it just gives me more energy, and I
Mhm.
think it comes across more professional overall.
By a show of hands, so you can raise your hand using the reactions down at the bottom. Raise your hand if you use a standing desk. I see quite a few. Rosa, and then, of course, Amanda with the real hand up. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, Deanna, too. Good. Thank you. That's great. So if you're able to stand, please do so. And if you feel comfortable and everything, you can work everything that you need to work standing up, please do so. When I was in radio broadcasting, a lot of the boards, they call it the control rooms where the DJs are, half of the radio stations I worked at were standing, the other half were sitting. If you are sitting, which the majority of us are, sit at the very front of your chair. If you're familiar with sitting at attention, sit with your back straight and use your hands appropriately to help with your gestures. That's posture and appearance. Yes, dress. I think that those should be two there. Number one, you should dress. at least from the waist up, and dress appropriately. When I was in training, we always dressed one notch better than our audience. So what we've just gone through is we've had an opportunity to look at one of the competencies that that certified facilitators have to be judged on. We looked at distractions. And these were all of those competencies that the virtual presenter and the virtual facilitators are judged on. I bring those up because these are also important that you apply them, these simple techniques to apply into your presenting. All of that projects credibility. In the chat, what happens, what are some ways, and I'll ask Amanda to help out with this, what are some ways that you can lose credibility as a facilitator, as a presenter? Go ahead and put that into the chat. What are some ways that you can lose credibility? There's a lot of ways that we can also earn credibility. So if you'd like to put that in the chat of ways that you can earn credibility, put that in the chat as well.
Got a couple answers here. Kathy says, read your message.
Read your message.
Yep. Victoria says, let people take time over in sessions.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
These are the how to lose credibility.
Yes,
And now I got what Kathy says. Read your message. So I'm reading a script. Yes, thank you, Kathy. Go ahead.
Michelle says, looking up, like thinking when you're supposed to be presenting. I'm gonna read this chat at some point. Let's see. Victoria says, earn, take offline. Well,
Cool.
what else we got here? No consistent flow to the presentation. To lose your cool.
I like that one.
Yep, that could do it.
Yeah. Let me talk about that for a minute. Lose
Please do.
Where the presenter and a participant get into an argument with one another. Now, I can give you a personal experience of this when I was teaching this. This was live. This was in a classroom teaching a software product, and everybody in the room, they all knew each other. I was the stranger. I was the guy coming in from the company to teach them the software. And you use an inappropriate joke or you say something inappropriate to someone, and the whole class will then gang up on you because they all are friends. That's not a good situation. So keep your cool. Even if you're right, keep your cool. So good stuff. Blame technology when something goes wrong. There you go. Oh, I can't figure this out. This is my first time. I hope I can figure this out. I've never used Zoom before, so I hope I can figure it out. All right, very good. So I was, so we've talked about at this point, we've looked at a very engaging introduction, which Amanda was a part of. We had a couple of exercises in the chat. We've talked about some principles or some things to think about when it comes to projecting credibility, when we were talking about the items in presence of the lighting, cameras, of dressing appropriately, all of those things projecting credibility. Also talked about ways that you can lose credibility and ways that you can earn credibility. And Thim says, how does using a teleprompter help in the eye contact and reading a speech? That's a great question. So we'll keep that one identified. We'll talk about that when we get to the end. I should have also said up front that if there's questions that are a little bit, it's a great question, but it's a little bit outside, we'll address that at the end. So this way we have time for everything. We have about 20 minutes left, and there's one last piece that I want to get into, and that is the adult learning theory. Has anyone, by a show of hands, have you ever heard of the adult learning theory? Amanda, great. I see several other hands that are up as well. Thank you, David. And Monica. Oh, Monica. There you go. Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you as well. So a little background on what this is, and we're going to talk about some pieces of this in just a moment. This is a tool that I was taught to use when I was learning how to train others and to engage an audience. At some point during my training and development career, I then was tasked to train subject matter experts on how to be trainers. The majority of them were software engineers in the company I was working for that now were promoted into trainer positions. They were going to be giving speeches at conferences and maybe even doing some training at the conferences, one-off training at the conference. Now, if you know anything about software engineers and about project managers, they all kind of have a very similar personality. They're not very extroverted. Now, I don't want to say that that's all software engineers, but many of them are that. And so my job was to help them to overcome that and overcome the second obstacle, and that was doing a data dump to their audience. And one of the ways that I found I was able to do that was by using the adult learning theory. So let's talk about this graph for just a moment. On the outside of this graph are 8 principles that all adults are looking for in a learning or engagement environment. I may use the term learning, but even if you're selling something, your prospect is learning something. You've got to be, in a way, training them about your product or your process or why you are better than the other guy. There are some elements of training involved in that. If you are conducting a workshop, there's definitely some training involved in that. And in many ways, formatting a speech is using the adult learning theory because you need to engage your audience. You need to keep your audience with you. So the more that I train this, the more that I saw that anybody can benefit from the principles in the adult learning theory. On the inside, we won't spend any time on that other than these are the differences in people. And I'll have a way when we finish where you can get your hands on a copy of this. So we're going to look at 3 of these principles. And the first principle is the principle of relevance. Why do you think the principle of relevance is important when you're training your trainees? Raise your hand if you'd like to answer this question. And Amanda, I'll get your help with this. Why do you think, just based on that title, principle of relevance, without knowing anything else about it, what do you think it means?
I think we got Michelle Cleveland who raised her hand and wrote in the chat. So,
Yep.
Michelle, if you want to come off mute.
The principle of WIFM. What's in it for me?
What's in it for me? Why is that important? Why do adults need to know the WIFM? What's in it for me?
Well, time is money. Where do I want to spend my time or invest my time? Is it worth my time?
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. And Monica?
I think basically the same as Michelle is saying, but with a million things happening in most people's lives, whether it's kids, things you need to do around the house, people who are coming, activities, work, whatever's going on, if it's not relevant, why am I going to waste my time on it?
Great. Thank you. And Amanda, do we have anything in the chat? Any responses in the chat?
Nope, Michelle already covered what she wrote in the chat.
Great. So all great responses. The principle of relevance. When someone asks me, what's the number one, if I was to give one tip when it comes to speaking, presenting, training, or teaching, is to make sure your content is relevant. If it is not relevant, they're going to tune out. If it's relevant and you have somewhat poor, or the speaker has somewhat poor speaking skills, I'm going to guess that the audience will more than likely listen to an extent to that individual. Again, the content has to be relevant. It has to be making an impact on that audience, and even with poor speaking skills. So number 1, Deanna, Hellboy, yeah, make sure your content is relevant. Amanda, thank you. Thank you for that. So number 1 principle, or one of the 8 principles of engagement, or one of the 8 principles of adult learning, is to make sure that your content is relevant. The other advice that when I mentor Toastmasters when they're learning, is to always speak about something you know really well. this way you can concentrate on the mechanics of speaking and not have to worry about the content. So that also can make it relevant, because now it's very relevant in your head because you know it, you know the content really well. So another one we're going to look at here is the principle of complexity. Now, I love this principle because here I can get you to visualize something. Take a moment and visualize a swimming pool. Maybe not the swimming pool outside now where it's cold, but a swimming pool during the summer months. A swimming pool with a bunch of your friends sitting around the pool. You got it? Excellent. So on one end of the swimming pool, you have a deep end. On the other end of the swimming pool, you have the shallow end of the pool. So let's talk about how this visualization plays a part when we're training others or speaking to others or presenting or selling to others. Think about a time that you were a trainee, you were a student, or you were listening to a speaker. And very early on in that presentation, the speaker went immediately to very complex stories and analogies, and you were maybe lost. This would be an example of a speaker who dove straight into the deep end of the pool at the very beginning of the presentation. Have you ever experienced that? How did that make you feel? You can put that in the chat if you'd like, or raise your hand if you'd like to respond. How did it make you feel that you were a participant and right off the bat you were lost because the speaker dove straight into the deep end of the pool? Deanna says, mad. Yeah, spent all this money on this workshop and I don't even know what the heck the person's talking about. Felt dumb, uninterested, stopped listening, Roxanne says. And I'm taking over Amanda's job. Sorry, Amanda. I'm getting a little carried away. And good. All these are great responses. Good. So here, an example, diving straight into the deep end of the pool. As presenters, one of the tasks we have is to gauge our audience, is to know what level our audience is at. Now, if your audience if they are all expert, then you can go ahead and dive straight into the deep end of the pool because everybody is going to understand what you're talking about. But if you gauge your audience as people who have never heard this topic before, have never had any exposure to this process or product or whatever it is, you're going to have to start at that shallow end of the pool. So how do you gauge your audience? How do you understand who they are? Can I pick on you again, Amanda?
Of course. You could ask questions beforehand, try to find out who's coming. If you're working with an event planner, you definitely want to get a little detail on that.
Okay.
And then ask questions up at the front, potentially, to gauge their interest and test the room.
Great. All great responses. And I like what's coming in. Take a poll, ask questions. Martha says that. Make them register to attend the Zoom meeting. There could be some additional questions there. And I like also what you said, Amanda, and that is that you can also ask questions at the very beginning of your presentation. For example, if I'm a roofer, if I'm selling roofs, how many people here have a roof? If I have a PowerPoint, I have a PowerPoint of a roof that's maybe doesn't look quite right. I say, how many people have a roof that looks like this? Well, then you need to come see me, the roofing guy. I see there's a couple of hands up. Let's Sheila, you have your hand up. Did you? Sheila Davis? Go ahead and unmute your microphone if you wanted to say something. Thank you.
I'm here.
Okay. I saw your hand up. Did you have something to add to what we've already talked about?
No, I just was in the room with everyone else who had a roof.
Great. Thank you. Just kind of getting in the groove with everybody else. Everybody else threw up their hand. So yes, good. How about if we do that right now? Everybody put your hand up. Not hands, your hand. Put your hands up. There you go. Excellent. Another example of, just little games and little silly things you can do with your audience to kind of keep them engaged. So up to this point, we've started looking at the adult learning theory. We talked a little bit about what it is. Here, the adult learning theory is all about creating engagement with your audience. The same principles that trainers can use to engage their audience and to make sure that their message sticks, all presenters, all speakers, workshop folks that are leading workshops, sales folks can use these same principles. And we talked about two of the principles, the principle of relevance and its importance. And we also talked about the principle of complexity. The last one that I'm going to talk about, hopefully I was able to demonstrate as we went through today's lesson, and that's the principle of repetition. Finding those, let me put a giant asterisk here for a moment, that all of these principles, all of these techniques, all of these ways of gaining credibility with your audience, all have to be designed to be appropriate to the type of speaking that you're doing. So if it's appropriate to have transitions and reviews, then I would encourage you to add them to keep your audience with you. That principle of repetition. Now, a review can be done in a variety of different ways. If it's telling a story, maybe going back a small bit. Remember when I talked about that guy, Fred? Well, let's talk about him again. The objective is the same. The way that you use the principle of relevance can be used in a million different ways, but the objective is the same, is to make sure that the audience stays with you and that they all the way through, that they understand what you're talking about. And you also, as a facilitator, you're gauging their understanding as well. Now, again, all of this has to be set up appropriately to your audience. Even a keynote speech, to a certain extent, is using transitions or using ways of the speech to keep the audience with them. I'd like to invite you to go out to my website and download my free ebook that has a lot more information, has information about all of these 8 principles. Go to my website, presentyourwaytosuccess.com, or you can use the short version, the PYWT success.com. You can use that as well. When you get to my website, poke around a little bit. This is what I do for a living. I help people to work on their training, to engage their audience, give them feedback if they need it, speech writing, e-learning. If that's something that you would like to get some additional information about, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have about adding additional engagement to your presentations and to your next Toastmasters speech. So briefly, what we've talked about today was, my objective was to give you some tips and guidelines and philosophies and tips and some magic dust that you can use to enhance your engagement. Now, we've just scratched the surface on this stuff. There are a million other ways that you can use to engage your audience, but at the core of it, it's all about creating that connection, creating that dialogue between each other. And sometimes that dialogue may be in nonverbals. That dialogue might be where the audience is just seeing it, feeling it, smelling it, feeling emotionally what you're talking about. I'm going to ask for Amanda's help on this. And what did you learn today? What's one little nugget that you're taking away from today? You can put it into the chat. You can raise your hand and we'll call on you. Great information, David. This was great. Thank you very much. where can we get more info on being a certified facilitator? Reach out to me, David, and I'll be happy to answer your question. I'm also going to put into the chat.
I already put your website in there as well.
Good. Thank you very much.
I got you. Let's see. Kathy says, I think I learned better ways to gauge my audience. That's good. That's good.
Gauge your audience. Thank you.
Christine says, standing up while presenting, I did not know that gave you energy. Absolutely. I got all the energy you can imagine.
Yeah. I always enjoyed watching these Disney, the animated films where at the end they'll show the actors who did the voiceover for them. And in every case, they're standing, they're working through, and Robin Williams doing the thing with the genie and so on, and actually running in place, all of those things. Yeah.
It just gives you more range of motion. So you got your whole body going. Let's see. Fran says she learned about the adult learning principles. Roxanne says, make sure you gauge your audience. Correct. Monica says, the importance of getting to know your audience before you present and getting to know your audience as you present. Both very important.
Very nice.
Roxanne also says, speak on something you know really well. Kathy says, getting an additional camera may be a real asset. Yes, this is true. You could also use your cell phone as your webcam instead if you want to do that. Lisa says, thank you. The use of Zoom engagement tools like raising hands, encouraging emojis. Appreciate the gift of your time and talent, and we'll be sharing your work with others in my network. Oh, that's nice, Lisa.
Thank you.
And Kimball says, standing up was a great idea. I will also use. Yes. And if you are giving us a speech contest speech, you definitely should be standing up. I'm just going to put that out.
Yeah. Great. Good stuff. Stand up, Deanna says. Good. Well, we're at just about the top of the hour, and I wanted to make sure that I gave Roxanne some time to introduce herself and also talk about some upcoming events. Roxanne?
Thank you so much, David. What a wonderful presentation you presented to us tonight. As he mentioned, we are recording it, so it will be available on our District 44 website. If you have members, Toastmaster members, or friends and family that would benefit from this workshop, please have them check out our D44 website. We also have our past workshops already on the website, ready to be viewed. I'd like to tell you about a couple of upcoming workshops that we have. We're very excited about this Saturday's workshop. It is called Awaken, and it is an interactive workshop that creates a compassionate space for uncomfortable conversations where we confront stereotypes, and it will hopefully lead to positive change. This is being sponsored by Epic Orators, and it is presented by Teresa Sprawling. I'm super excited about this workshop. Part one, as I said, is Saturday at 10:15 a.m. So please go to our D44 website once again and register. Also on Monday, we've started doing a few Lunch and Learn workshops. And this coming Monday, we have Powerhouse Motivation, where you will learn how to self-motivate and also to remove any mental blocks that you may have when you think you can't motivate yourself. And it'll give you an opportunity to apply motivation in your professional and personal life. So please join us for these other fabulous workshops and continue to check out the website so that you can see all the upcoming events for the rest of the year. And I know Kari Evans, our Club Growth Director, was here. Is she still with us? She might have had to jump off because we have a fireside chat with our Toastmasters International President. So I will be jumping off onto that meeting next.
And I'm here, and hello, and yes, I was about to jump off to go to that. But hello, everyone.
Sorry, don't you have something on Tuesday night?
Next Tuesday night?
Yes.
We are, for the VPMs and the VPPRs, there might be one or two of you here. We are having our collab meeting, and that is an opportunity to collaborate with myself and our public relations manager, AJ Hopper, and we talk about tips and tricks and ideas for increasing membership, promoting your club, and we answer any kind of questions that you may have. So I encourage you to check that out on Tuesday at 8 p.m. and you can find the link on the D44 website.
Thanks, Kari. And I am the program quality director. If you are interested in giving a workshop for District 44, please reach out to me. It is pqd@d44toastmasters.org. I know Amanda's quickly typing that in the chat. Or if you have any workshops that you would like for us to present, please feel free to reach out on those as well. So again, thank you, Amanda, for your talents. And David, I especially thank you for a wonderful presentation tonight. And I will turn it back over to you.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm seeing a lot of the notes coming in and folks expressing that they enjoyed it. Thank you so much. If you are not a member of Toastmasters and would like to know more information about it, go to toastmasters.org. All of the Toastmasters meetings around the world are all virtual, so you can be a part of a club in Japan or in Guam or wherever you'd like to be a part of a club. It's a lot of fun. And it's the most inexpensive way that you can practice your speaking skills and do it with a group of people that are extremely supportive. Amanda, do you have any final words?
No, you said it all. I posted everything in the chat. If you guys need to reach out to David, do check out his website. Of course, you can reach out to Roxanne or myself. Also, I did put in there the Facebook group for the district. There are a lot of things that are posted in there that is fun, and just words of encouragement for everybody for contest season. We are in the midst of it, and I look forward to seeing you guys all out there.
Oh, and Thim is joining us from Malaysia.
Oh,
Look at that.
wow. I went to a club in Dubai a few months back, and that was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Well, thanks
Yeah.
so much, Thim. All right. Thank you so much. Have yourself a great rest of the evening. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
You
you,
guys have
thank you so much, y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye, Michelle. Thank you. If anybody had any questions, I suppose you could ask.
Thank you. I've got to run to my other meeting.
All good. I got this under control. I'm gonna stop the recording.